Let's stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so now we're going to have a public hearing on the qualifications for superintendent. And if anyone would like to speak on the qualifications, now is your opportunity to do that in the public hearing. Going once, going twice. All right, so we'll close the public hearing. I've already called this to order. Item 2B, do we have approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Austin?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, item 3, recognitions, reports, and discussions. Item 3A, recognition of Skills USA competition. First place, Isaiah Firstnow. Did I say that? First now.
First
Okay.
now.
He's now first.
Yeah, he was truly first.
That's right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it is indeed my pleasure to recognize tonight Isaiah Firstnow. He's a senior this year. He's in his 3rd year of automotive technology. Mr. Alvis, if you're looking for good employees, you might want to talk to Isaiah before he leaves. But he has passed 7 of the 10 ASCE certifications so far. He holds an OSHA 10 card for building trades and an OSHA 10 card for general industry. He is currently employed by AutoZone and plans to attend Virginia Highlands Community College in the fall for welding. But the reason that we've brought him here tonight is not only did he win first place at the District 8 Skills USA competition for interview skills back in February, but just a couple weeks ago, we sent some of our students to Virginia Beach to compete in the state competition, and I'm pleased to tell you that Isaiah is a state champion in interview skills, and so we wanted to recognize him. He's going to get to go to Atlanta, Georgia, and compete in the national competition. And so, Isaiah, we've got a little certificate for you here that we'd like to present with you. But I was telling our leadership team the other day, when our athletes win a state championship, we make sure that they get a ring. And so, Isaiah, we're also going to be purchasing you a state championship ring that we'll be picking out with Dr. Hurd as well. So, Isaiah, will you come forward? Now, Isaiah, you are welcome to stay as long as you'd like, but don't feel like you have to. We put you early on the agenda because we know you're a busy young man with lots to do. So if you need to slide out, nobody will be offended at all. But Isaiah, thank you very much for coming, and we are indeed very, very proud of you. Thank you.
All right, item 3B, school board student representative report.
You can go ahead and go to the next slide. National recognition. Virginia High was recently recognized in New York City for earning 3rd place in the nation for mid-size high school in WISE economic testing. Congratulations to our students and teachers who made this possible.
Edwards College of Osteopathic Medicine recently hosted a mini medical school for high school students enrolled in nursing classes. The nursing classes allowed students interested in a career in nursing to earn valuable hands-on experience in that field.
Skills USA. Congratulations to the students who competed at the Skills USA state competition. Sean Sloan and Shane Doxson placed 7th and 4th in their job demonstration competitions. Jaden Hess placed 1st in the automotive service technician competition, and he also received a scholarship from the University of Northwestern Ohio.
TVA. Representatives from TVA, as well as Delegate Israel O'Quinn and Councilman Jake Holmes, recently visited 2 of the dual enrollment science classes at the high school. TVA's support of STEM education at the high school will enable our school to expand our course offerings in STEM education.
Soccer. The boys' soccer team is currently unbeaten in all competitions after a recent win over Marion. The girls' soccer team is currently unbeaten in district play. We wish the best of luck to both teams as they finish out their regular season.
Thank you all. There's some things there I didn't know about, so I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Mr. Alvis, they stole a little bit of my thunder.
Okay.
But I think I stole theirs too because I saw they had Isaiah up on their slide as well. So let me just add to the student school board reps presentation and say that Shane Doxson, one of the students who won an award at state for his demonstrating his skill, is actually the student that we have that's got the internship with J.A. Street, who is working on building the new elementary school. So, Mr. McGee, you met him that day when we were up there traveling. So also the TVA grant was a $5,000 grant that we've used to get some great science equipment. So we're really appreciative. BVU turned us on to that grant, and we can intend to continue to write that. And then finally, talking about the boys soccer team, we've got a boys and girls game tomorrow night. Well, there's actually a game tonight too. We have a boys and girls game tomorrow night. If you can come out, we're going to have a special presentation between the girls and the boys game. I think I sent you some. Anyway, check your email. If you hadn't seen that yet, there's a little information on there. And so anyway, hope you can come out for that.
And the track team, they've had 2 really big meets over there at the high school.
Absolutely. Our track team, and we're starting to engage a lot more middle school students, elementary students, and if you go by Virginia High School on a Wednesday, chances are there's going to be very little parking because we are really, really hosting some big meets there for sure.
I went by Tuesday, and it was a bit. I got there at 6, so I'd missed some of the early events, but there were a lot of athletes there, elementary on up. It was pretty good. One of the neat things to see was Brody Jones. He ran his race. He's in the relay, and now look over there. About 10 minutes later, and he's in the center field playing tag with the elementary students. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. Not just being all to himself or all about the high school kids. He was interacting with the little kids, and that's how you grow a program, is get the little kids excited and interact with the the faces of the program. So that's pretty good.
And I just want to say, there's a million things going on right now, and there's been lots of end-of-year concerts and shows and things like that, and the track meets, and the number of parents and teacher volunteers that we have at these is incredible. When I was at the track meet the other day, it was like, holy cow, there's like 20 at least parent volunteers here giving up their time. And a shout out to all of our teachers who gave up their most recent Friday night to chaperone prom. It's really great to have staff that is, I know sometimes they have to do it, but it's really great to see them there with a smile on their face, and I really appreciate that.
And basketball coach, and football coach, and
everybody, we have, it's so
and
many, it's
on and
not
on.
just the coaches and the teachers, it's so many parent volunteers and staff volunteers that make all these things run.
Takes a village.
It does.
It does. All right, item 3C, superintendent's report.
Well, it's going to be much shorter since my friends over here stole all of my thunder over here. But no, I will take just a second to expound on the WISE Financial. So Dr. Hurd actually got a call to, I mean, they flew him up to New York City this past Friday. They honored the best schools in the nation for the WISE Financial Literacy Test. And that test is associated with our personal finance, which is maybe, arguably, one of the most important classes we teach. I mean, that is the class that students, I mean, that goes with them for the rest of their life. And so our students have always excelled in that, on that test. But this year, out of the entire nation, out of all the high schools in the nation that took that test, out of mid-sized high schools, which I would still say were small, but out of mid-sized high schools, we placed third. And out of every high school that participates in the WISE Financial Program, regardless of size, we placed sixth. That's not in the state of Virginia. That's not in the eastern region. That is in the entire United States of America. And I knew when they invited Dr. Hurd to come to New York City that something good was going to happen, but I had no idea that we were going to that we had performed that well and been rated that high. So certainly proud of our personal finance students and staff. We also got news just this morning that Miss Thomas's class won the regional stock market game, and they don't actually play the stock market, but I think I'm going to get them to invest some of my money. But they actually earned over from January until March, they had earnings over $110,000. And so so that was pretty phenomenal. And you put all that in perspective with recognizing Isaiah, sharing the things that our student board reps. So much of what we do is connected to not just getting our students to college, but getting our students connected to their careers and their jobs. And it's easy to see just from the report tonight that Bristol, Virginia Public Schools and Virginia High School specifically are excelling in that area. So congratulations.
Wednesday, I take, if they want to go, 2 art students to the congressional art.
9th District, yeah. Yeah. So lots to celebrate. Just a quick update on the budget. We continue to hope that we'll get a state budget adopted. It doesn't look like that. However, we currently are operating, we're still running our numbers off the governor's budget, which everything is holding up fine, but Tammy has had an opportunity to crunch all the other numbers, whether it is the House budget or the Senate budget or a combination of the two, and we really, regardless of what the state comes out with, unless there's major changes when the conference budget is adopted, we'll be ready to do the 5% or the 7% raise, whichever way the state ends up going. So we're really excited about continuing to improve teacher salaries so we can recruit and retain the very best. And then finally, Stephanie has some pictures up there. These pictures are great, but if you get a chance, go by the Virginia Intermediate School site. The progress is it's flying. The roof is starting to go on in several locations, and the backside that faces Interstate 81, the entire back, that part of the gym, the brick is up, and they'll be going around the other side of the building. And Stephanie told me she was driving down the interstate and could see it, so I actually left work this afternoon, and it is, I mean, it is just phenomenal just to see the building, but now to see how beautiful it's going to be with the brick and the accent that's going up around it, and you can see the road is truly developing, and it is really coming along, and certainly going to be a great place for our kiddos to learn. Anybody that would like for me to take you up there and give you the tour and kind of take you through and tell you what each room is, I'm happy to do that. But also our staff can do that as well, because we took our central office staff up there, I guess it was last week, and took them on a tour so they could see what was going on too. But Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Any questions, comments? I'm gonna try to meet you up there Wednesday.
Okay. It'll be afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wednesday afternoon, 12:30, 1 o'clock.
I'll holler back at you. Yeah.
All right. Item 3D, discussion of grading scale.
I may just stay right here.
That's fine,
Pleases the
yeah.
board. All right, so we started a conversation last month, well, it's actually almost last week, about grading scale. And so I wanted to provide some facts for you before I make a recommendation. So in Region 7, which goes from Pulaski and Giles all the way down to Lee County, 6 school divisions in Region 7, including us, are currently using a 7-point grading scale. Two more divisions are using something similar. It's not quite a 10-point scale, but it might be a 6-point A and an 8-point B, but something similar. So we have two divisions that are doing that. 9 divisions in our region are already operating on a 10-point scale, and 2 divisions have advised, I sent out a survey to all of the superintendents. 2 divisions advise that they are currently considering changing to a 10-point scale. Well, as I mentioned last month, what makes that important is, a little bit with college applications and GPAs, that does have some impact on it, but where this really has an impact is if we have a student in Bristol who scores a 92 as their final grade, they would end up with a B. But a student in another county could have a 90 and they have an A, and therefore their GPA is going to be higher. Well, when those students are applying for scholarships, that's where the rubber really meets the road, and it puts our students at an unfair advantage. Also, individual students, I looked at last year's data, the spring semester of last year, and had we been using a 10-point scale, that's 74 students who failed a class last year that would have actually passed had we been on a 10-point scale. So that has an impact. Our scale is having an impact on graduation, and it also has an impact on summer school, because that's 74 kids who either had to go to summer school to take a class or make a class larger the next year because they were filling up that class. And so to give you an idea of which school divisions are on the 10-point scale, those are Giles, Dickinson, Norton, Radford, Pulaski, Lee, Galax, Carroll, and Wise. We're talking about a potential change, but so are Scott and Washington County. As a note, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia, and those are, in our general area, they have already went to a statewide 10-point scale. So not only are our students competing with other students in our region for college admission and scholarships, but they're also competing with students in other states. Interestingly, I tried to find the school board policy and to find out what actually dictates the grading scale, and we don't have one. Mr. Collins did find in the student handbook at Virginia High School that the grading scale is indeed a 7-point grading scale, but we have no school board policy that dictates that. In checking with other school divisions, some do have a school board policy, while others have no school board policy. So really, outside of Mr. Collins' handbook, our teachers could really be using any grading scale that they so chose. But my recommendation is that we move to a division-wide 10-point scale in grades pre-K through 9. I further recommend that a committee be formed at Virginia High School to consider the impact that changing the grading scale will have for class rank on the classes of 2024, 2025, and 2026 before we make a final decision about those grade levels. And so I think we could change the grading scale for those grade levels as long as we put some things in place to protect students from, sometimes class rank can become a game and you take a certain class at a certain time because you can get more points for it. And I think if we're going to change it for next year's 10th and 11th and 12th graders, I think we'd have to be really careful and strategic about how we did that. However, for all grades pre-K through 9, it really would not have an impact on class rank. And so I don't know that we need to develop a policy. I think this is something the superintendent could do during regulation. With a regulation, however, if it was something that the board wanted to weigh on and make it a policy, that would certainly provide consistency, and it would send the message about what this board wants to do as far as academic achievement and grading goes. So that's my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Of course, I have questions. So it makes sense to me we should move to a 10-point grading scale, that's fine. But if we're talking about the benefits of scholarships and not failing classes as our rationale for doing this, I guess I know we don't want to mess with somebody's class rank and make them upset, but it feels like the bigger advantages here, like those things are, I don't want to say more important and upset someone, but it feels like we should be making the change to give all of our students the same opportunities for scholarships, college acceptance, and not failing classes. So I guess maybe if somebody from the high school, or if you could give me some insight into like the timeline on this, or if we could, is this something that the committee could decide and we could roll out like starting in August, or what kind of lead time do teachers need to change this?
I think it could very possibly be easily, we could get a committee together, we could look at all the ins and outs. School counselors, they've seen it all. They should be able to help guide us through that and develop a policy that would protect that. But I will say that class rank also has impact on scholarship
Right,
as well,
right.
especially valedictorian.
Right.
Because some school divisions will give you a full scholarship if you're the valedictorian of your high school. And so there are a lot of things, I mean, a lot of considerations that go into that. And so whether you're changing how you do class rank, or you're changing how you calculate GPA, or messing with the grading scale, I think we have to be really cognizant of how it impacts that. Not because of the political, like what kind of, I think what you're saying is, you know, it might make someone mad or hurt their feelings, but it does have an impact on potential scholarships as well.
Yeah.
There may be a policy in place that talks about class rank, which has kind of locked in, so, because the last time we did class rank, I'm pretty sure the board had, so there is a policy for that, which would mean you'd have to go back and change.
Look at that as well. And so this is how I could see it could have an impact. If I'm a junior, Mr. Alvis is a senior. Mr. Alvis takes a class, you know, let's just call it chemistry. And he takes it as a junior, and he makes a 92. He's going to have a B as a 3.0. I take that same class, and he and I are in the running for valedictorian, salutatorian. I take the class the next year, and I make a 90. Then I'm going to get an A, and even though it's the same,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it could give me a benefit over Mr. Alvis, and I think we could put things in place to protect that, but I think we need to, rather than just going to a wholesale change it, I think we need to make sure that we put those things in place.
And don't come out of your seat at me for asking a dumb, bad question. I mean, would we then, or would we consider like, okay, well, we need to go back and change whoever got the 92B to an A? Is that what we would be considering?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay,
I think you dance with who you came with
okay.
for that year, and then you make the changes, but put some type of safeguards or protections in to the situation that I just discussed to prevent that from happening.
So then it sounds like time is really of the essence on
Right, and,
this
yeah,
for the,
and we could, I mean, just some potential solutions is that you have for 3 years, you could have 2 different GPAs. Your pre-10-point grading scale GPA, which would count towards class rank, and then your post-10-point grading scale, which would be what you would use for applications and scholarships.
okay.
I mean, that's just one solution. I promise you, the school counselors will have way better ideas than that, but that would just be one potential solution.
I'm wondering what the criteria was that it was changed to begin with, because when I remember, it was 90 to 100 was an A, 80 to 90 a B. I mean, what was the criteria, just to make it more challenging to achieve an A in a class?
I'm not sure, but Mr. Collins remembers when it actually went to 94 to 100, and the last time that,
Goodness gracious.
Like that, when I became the principal of high school, then we had
Hmm.
the discussion, then it got moved down to 93. And at that, the board didn't take any action on it, but when we moved it from 94 to 93, it was because the grading scales around us, we're in the same position. So they have now gone to 90, so,
Hmm.
really punishing our kids if we don't follow suit when it comes to
Right.
in some of our
Sorry,
classes,
guys.
our AP and dual enroll are already on the 10-point scale because of the college credit that they carry.
Sure.
So, we have really 2 different scales.
So can we have a committee and maybe a policy or something ready for next meeting?
Mr. Collins, would you get a committee of folks together at the high school to make a recommendation for the June board meeting?
Would it be appropriate to have our student board reps serve on that as well, so they can share?
They may have different ideas since they're seniors and won't get to take advantage of it, so. Oh, that's right. Sorry, Dahlia. You're just so mature. Yeah, I-
Gavin and Katie are not excused because they're at soccer. They can still be on the committee. That could maybe be, they get to be on it because they're not here tonight and you two can put them on the committee.
All right. Item 3E, update on the International Baccalaureate.
Mr. Ritchie.
Good evening, Mr. Alvis, members of the board. After our last meeting, I have visited all the elementary schools, and I shared a lot of information with you, I think, on Thursday. I surveyed the faculty. It was a 4-question survey, and I specifically sent you the comments because that was something that I could not take on in a short presentation tonight. So I felt like it would be something that would be worth your time to look at. I also sent to you a PowerPoint, and it was the PowerPoint that I shared with all of the teachers so they could understand what IB looked like. And we are not going through that entire PowerPoint, actually. I added a couple of additional slides, and this is toward the end of that PowerPoint if any of you looked at it. But I wanted you to see that. So just really drilling down to the nuts and bolts of what I believe are things that you would want to consider. First of all, the IB professional development requirements, these really, I mean, it's the heart of it. All teachers and administrators, they must be IB trained before we can implement IB, and that is going to be approximately 15 hours. There are different ways of providing the training, and I'll speak to that in a minute when we look at the budget. The belief this come from the principal at Northwood Elementary. One of the things that would have to be done is we would have to commit to developing these planners or the curriculum that would be used, these units of study, and that would take a ton of time. It would be a huge collaborative effort, which that would be good in a lot of ways, but it will require a lot of time, a lot of meetings. And then the one area that Principal Steens had reported that was the biggest requirement for them right now, that the planners had been created, is figuring out a time for teachers to be able to reflect upon the units that are taught, because that is an IB expectation that after every unit is taught, they have to reflect upon what worked and what did not work. So these are some PD considerations. The Literacy Act, which is coming out, here in a year or so, there's already a lot of work that's gone into that, but it's going to be, we believe it's going to bring many PD assignments to our elementary teachers. We know right now that pre-K to second grade, there's going to be a major overhaul. And I mean, the discussion is possibly all the way up through 8th grade, but certainly through 4th grade, there are going to be requirements that will be passed along to us. And also during the merge year and the following year, it's going to require a ton of professional development to plan for the merge. And then the following year, just refining various issues that will come up with the merge. So, it's going to, it's going to require a great amount of focus for those things. And these were implementation challenges by Principal Steen herself at Northwood Elementary. She talked about the training, incorporating, you can imagine we have SOL, so we have the state standards, and then we follow a CIP pacing guide to administer benchmarks, and then adding IB to that. We would have to mesh all three of those things together. Not that it could not be done, but I mean, it would require a lot of work. Also, in a time for planning and reflecting on IB planners, as I mentioned, and then incorporating IB into math. Principal Steens talked about the challenge of being able to make math work inside of the IB curriculum, and they had not completely figured that out. They were taking that on, but that was a concern. So these are the potential startup costs. If we used an IB coach, as I mentioned last month, which is what Northwood Elementary does, in the middle of the range for a teacher, including all of the benefits that would be included in hiring a teacher, around $65,000, and then it would be required that we hire a foreign language teacher, another $65,000. The membership fee is around $10,000. And then the IB consultant fee per year would be $10,000. The consultant fee would go away after 2 years. It would probably require us 2 years going through all the prep work and everything. And then the professional development, there is a host of ways that professional development can be administered. And in emailing back and forth with Principal Steen, she said this is the way that they did the initial training. They brought in a trainer for 2 days, and if you up to 50 teachers, you can pay $3,000 a day, and so which is extremely cost effective. The other options are, a teacher could sign up, pay $550 for an online class, which is what I did when I went through the training. And it was a terrible experience for me. The idea was that I would spend 15 hours over the course of the month to complete my coursework. It was asynchronous, and I spent about 30 hours. It was very, very difficult. Mr. Collins, on the other hand, went in person in June. I did this in February, and I was concerned about travel at that time. But he traveled in June to Orlando, Florida, and he had a glorious experience. But obviously, paying for hotel, a flight down there, the expense of maybe $2,500 compared to $550 is very, very different. But I would not want to put my experience, I wouldn't want to give that to anybody. But, I know we all learn differently. But I'm just saying that there could be a huge range on the cost of the professional development. And in year one, I think we would be just fine. The challenge potentially is when you get to year two and you hire 5 new teachers and they have to be trained soon. And so suddenly you are putting them on a plane, flying out to California, or, something that's much more costly. So, so the professional development could be much lower than even what I was thinking, and this is definitely on the low end. So, as I said, we did a survey of 4 questions, and I'm just showing you these first 3, the responses to these first 3 questions. And I think 77 teachers or staff, elementary staff, responded to the survey. And you can see the breakdown of pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. And the survey was anonymous, so I did not even know who. There were a couple of comments that gave a hint as to what they might be doing. But other than that, the responses did not give any indication. So this was really the heart of the survey, I guess. Are you in favor of adding International Baccalaureate to the elementary program? And you can see the response here. And then the next question. If given a choice, which approach would be most favorable? And, there was some talk, even with the committee and traveling back, some of us talked about, could we create, could we build units and do something like that? That might be something like IB. And 66 said they would favor that over traditional IB. Of course, there was there were only 2 choices there, but the response was very favorable. So I'm bringing to you tonight, I've tried to share as much information as I could. And if any of you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to try to field those as well.
So let me ask the professional development part of it. Does it work for the professional development our teachers can use anyway? I mean, is it something they can use for their certification?
Yeah, so I started to work on a slide, and I pulled it out actually, because I was going to share it with teachers too, and then I probably should have come back and added it. But typically the professional development that we require each year is we require 3 individual improvement days during the summer. Now, they can pick those up with online trainings. A teacher could pick that up during the school year. They could do an online training in the evening, and they could get one of their individual improvement days there. But they're required to do 3. And then during pre-service week, typically we will assign about 2.5 days, 2.5 days working in the classroom, and 2.5 days of meetings. So for example, convocation, which will take about half a day, that's one of those half days of professional development. So when you start thinking about 15 hours to be trained in IB, you know, when do you do that? Do you take all of pre-service week to do those 15 hours? So then you have no other time to do any other professional development during pre-service week. And the individual improvement days, the challenge is everybody's going in different directions during the summer. So bringing everybody together to do one thing is a challenge. And everybody has different interests. But I mean, even thinking about central office staff, for example, it's a challenge to get everybody together at the same time because of vacation plans. And so when you think about the size of an elementary school, that is a real challenge. So, you know, a lot of that would be added on potentially. And there was some talk, and I didn't fully investigate this, and she said it was not used often, but that they had on at least 2 different occasions, they had paid stipends to teachers to compensate them for the extra amount of work that they were doing to prepare for that. She said that was not done often, but that it had been done a couple of times.
So I had a question I had a couple questions that came up in reading the teacher comments. Some of them didn't, it seemed like they thought we were maybe still talking about the high school program because they were talking about how it wouldn't be for all of our students, it would just be for a small number of students. And of course, this is for the entire elementary school, so it would be for everyone. But a lot of comments were about the consolidation of the schools and the merge and what that's going to look like. And I guess my understanding was that, you know, we were considering this for the elementary schools in this timing to be a good way to bring people into alignment of teaching the same things. So my understanding was that when we have the new schools open, I mean, one's not new, but you know what I mean, we have all the teachers in the grade are working on the same, like they've planned together, they're working on the same thing. You know, my kid in 2nd grade is getting the same experience regardless of who the teacher is, not this is a Van Pelt teacher, this is a Highland View teacher, this is a Stonewall, this is Washington Lee. And the feedback from some of the teachers did not quite line up with my expectation that we were doing some standardizing already, because they were like, we can't do the standardizing, that's too much. And I thought we were doing the standardizing either way, and it was IB or something else. So is my impression incorrect, or is that a decision that will come, or further discussions that will come once the administration of those buildings is named? Or I just wasn't sure what the disconnect was.
There already is standardizing in place in the sense of, say, 4th grade math. All of the teachers are following the very same pacing guide. Now, inside of that pacing guide, they have decisions as to how they present adding fractions with the same denominator. So they do have latitude as to how they present that and what the assignment might be and so forth. But ultimately, the standard is the very same. So that's going to be true across the board. And even potentially, we are probably going to give even greater direction, you know, when the Literacy Act comes out, even along those lines as well.
So I guess I just wasn't sure if the staff were anticipating that, because it sort of sounded from a lot of the comments like they were not anticipating much change to their instructional methods or styles or curriculum or lessons or whatever coming when they consolidated schools. But like you said, the Literacy Act, and I thought we were making changes kind of regardless, and it was IB or something else. So
Well, I think ultimately that, I mean, obviously, we work for the board, And so the direction we go will be the direction we go. And we'll pick it up and we'll run with it. So,
And you're exactly right. That's the beauty of having all second grade classes in the same building on the same hall. I think the concern, I don't know, I didn't read the comments, but I think that there's standardization and there's consolidation and there's merge, and then there is that squared. And I think, I think IB adds just a whole nother layer to what we know that we're already going to have to do to get everybody singing off the same sheet of music. And I think IB just adds a whole, because not only are we going to standardize, but we've got to learn the whole IB principle. And I think if we, in our current model, if we don't add IB, it's just a matter of synchronizing what we already know instead of learning a completely new opportunity. I will say too, though, that whether we decide to go primary years IB or not, I think you're exactly right. This is a perfect opportunity for us to move to an inquiry-based learning model but maybe not one that is as stringent as IB, that's as costly as IB, and by starting out that way, then if you do decide to make the transition to IB sometime in the future, you're already heading in that direction instead of everything being dumped all at one time. And so from that standpoint, it may not be the time for me. My recommendation would be with the change in leadership at the division level, with the change in leadership at the elementary school level, with the consolidation of schools, my suggestion would be to just to pump the brakes and to say, let's reconsider this after we have all those leadership pieces in place and we've had an opportunity to get the new school open. That would be my recommendation. I think for this to be successful, you've got to have our teachers, the folks that are going to implement it, have buy-in. And from just the conversations that I've had, I think there's an interest in, IB, learning more about IB, but I don't think that you would have buy-in at this point. And if you do an initiative like this while you're trying to combine schools, and I think that you're heading down a path that you're going to have a lot of struggles. That's my opinion.
I don't disagree with that. And I know there's a lot of change going on, and some of it's new change, and there's a lot of budget issues from the landfill and the, Department of Ed and that sort of thing. I just don't know that there's going to be any more enthusiasm for moving to a local inquiry-based learning system in 2 years. I mean, maybe there will be, but I just don't know that there's.
So the reason I was asking about the professional development, kind of my thought was, is if we could do professional development like we were going to start the IB, but do it ourselves, especially with the new school, and get so that because I was under the impression at the very beginning, that really this is just for our gifted kids. It's not for everyone. And so I think we got to get by that mindset first. And if we can incorporate something of our own in a new building, a new way of learning, not exactly IB, but in something that might head us there. I mean, that's kind of why I was asking, would that professional development kind of overlap and serve both purposes,
Yeah, and I will add one thing that in fact, I think I mentioned last month. We did add 3. Now, this is not much time. I mean, you need to think about the amount of time that you actually have. But, I mean, we did set up 3 additional early dismissal days for elementary only. And at the end of the day, they have 6 early dismissal days. And, the thought behind that is there are a host of professional development activities that could be done. And if we're moving to inquiry-based learning or something like that, maybe that's where the lion's share of the professional development lands or even during pre-service week. I mean, if that's the direction we need to go, then that's the direction that we need to go.
And I will also say that we do have a lot of teachers who are teaching inquiry-based lessons and modules. But to say that we have a lot of teachers that are using that method, that pedagogy all the time and consistently, I would say not. But we do have a lot of project-based learning going on, inquiry-based learning going on, but not at the scale that I think that we'd like to see it go to.
And I will say, when the SOLs went away in third grade science, third grade science, third grade history, fifth grade writing, and fifth grade history and sixth grade history, the requirement was when they went away, we were to develop authentic assessments. And we have done that. I've worked with all of those departments, and so, for example, in fifth grade, they do a unit on Jamestown, and they are given a big question. They do about 3 activities looking at sources, and then they write an essay after they've completed that unit, and then it's graded in 2 ways. It's graded in the history classroom, but it's also graded in the language arts classroom. So we already are doing some things like that. And that's taken a lot of work to, I mean, we've revised every year actually since it started, and it's been going on now for 4 or 5 years.
Any other questions or comments or?
I think maybe we need to discuss as a board a little more so that we're straight with what we think we're doing before we take too much action on it. It's like Brianne said, was she understanding one way, and I sort of understood it, didn't understand it the same way.
So for it to succeed, I mean, it's already been said, we have to have buy-in by our teachers. I mean, they're the ones that's going to run they're running the program. So, you know, if we've got to come up with a way for us to all to understand where we're going with this. You know, teachers, community, us as a board. You know, I don't want to waste money to do an IB program just to say we've got an IB program. Yeah, and I mean, we've got to have participation in it. That's why it left before us, because we didn't have participation at the high school level. And if we want it at the high school level, we got to start in the elementary. Mm-hmm. And you know, I think the start, and just my opinion, you know, if we can do something ourselves to get us moving, it's going to be, to me, it's a slow process, and it's going to be driven by funding, and we don't know what that's going to look like, because we've been running off of you know, COVID funding for a couple of years, and that's running out. You know, the city's in a heck of a mess with their budget. So, you know, as we move forward, you know, the monetary costs are what's on my mind as well.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, looking at that budget, I mean, I think we should have an elementary school foreign language teacher. I would love to have that position anyway, regardless of IB or not. So I was like, yes, let's get that in there. But I mean, it is a lot of money to spend when we are in tight circumstances right now. I just don't want to waste an opportunity to do something really good for our students. And I think it would be really good for our whole community. I think it's not going to be a panacea, but I think it might address some of the issues that we're facing around engagement. I hope it would. It doesn't have to be IB, it can be, you know, our own local thing, but I just don't want to, I don't want to put too much on the teachers, but I also don't want to waste an opportunity to do something that is going to work out really well for 17 different reasons with the timing of opening the new schools. And I don't know exactly what that looks like or who's the person to take charge of that. But I would just hate to see us, you know, a year from now going, gosh, didn't we ever follow up on that? Oh, no, we didn't. And now we're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I've thought about this long and hard, and I like to try to be objective. And I feel like it's our position to serve and not to govern. And, you know, if the demand or if the want is there by the community, I feel, you know, I would feel good about it. But I'm not so not so certain that, you know, as of right now, I think the polls kind of show otherwise. And maybe there's other things we could do with that same amount of funding. So,
I'll just say that I really want to offer our children opportunities for innovative ways of learning and new opportunities and things that are going to help them throughout their lives, whether that's college or whether that's a CTE program or whatever they're going to do. And I don't think it's ever acceptable to say, we don't think our students can do this. And I know that there are some small percentages that have that attitude, and I will never accept that our students can't do this or are not up to this, or that our teachers can't do it and aren't up to it. We don't have to do it right now. It's fine to pump the brakes. It's fine to talk about it more. But I want to keep striving for excellence for our students. And I'm not saying we don't have excellent staff and teachers. We do. They are excellent. But I want to continue to bring as many opportunities to our students as we can.
There was a guy had an interesting comment last Thursday at the VSBA regional meeting. He was a guy he was a veterinarian from Galax. They had been on the school board up there for 19 years. And one of the things he mentioned, he was talking about our education system as a whole, in that he kind of looked, if you kind of look at it as an assembly line, that it really started at the end of World War II. The ideas of public education that we have now, and hasn't changed a whole lot. In that we need, you know, and I think, and I was thinking also, you know, since I've been on the board, we've tried to be innovative here in Bristol as far as what we do. You know, we don't care what the rest of the Commonwealth does. We want to do what's best for our kids, and that means being different and letting them be thinkers. I know, you know, Mr. Gearhart, me and him had several conversations about that as far as, you know, how do we get our kids, you know, to work in groups and collaborate and to do projects and to do study and, you know, start at the elementary level. And, you know, IB might be just a discussion that we need to move that way, whether it's IB or not. But I mean, we need to overhaul how we educate. You know, everybody. You know, we need to do it different and figure out what that is and how we can do that. And we're the system to do that. I mean, we are the people to do that. We have the best people that in the Commonwealth, best people around, and we can figure that out. But, you know, if we have that as a goal for all of us, system-wide, you know, pre-K through high school, we're going to all be better for it. We're going to have students that are productive citizens, and we're all just going to be better for it. So, you know, I think that's kind of my charge to us as a board, you know, to us as central office, to us as teachers, as administrators. Let's get out of that box and do things different, and it's just going to help everybody, because we're not producing thinkers. You know, really with the SOL, we're producing test takers. I mean, that's what we're producing, and we need to get away from that. So there's my soapbox.
Someone said something to me last week, and they weren't saying it directly to me, but I took it to heart. And that was not being an elementary teacher or an elementary administrator, that it was hard for someone to appreciate the level of anxiety already in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not really thought about that, because I thought, well, we'll just all come together. You know, fifth graders, they show up at the middle school, and in a week, they're loving the middle school. And so in the way I think about it, I think that the transition is not so big. But that comment was not made toward me, but it caused me to think, well, I'm kind of thinking like that too. So, but I think there's an opinion that there's a great deal of anxiety right now.
I think you're exactly right.
So I think,
About a lot.
moving forward, I think, we just need to continue with the conversation. How are we gonna do it different?
Maybe the conversation on my end needs to be talking about making inquiry-based learning more of a priority. Maybe that's what we need to do.
I think that'd be a great question to have in a superintendent's interview.
I've already got it.
One of the things you gotta think about, you talk about thinking outside of the box and doing those things. But the box is how we evaluate them.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, until you change those parameters and say, these scores don't matter, this is what matters, then you're always gonna be, we can think outside the box, but you better be teaching inside the box.
Mhm.
Because that's how I'm gonna evaluate you, that's how our school's gonna be accredited. And so unless those things.
Well, that's
have
true,
flexibility
yeah.
and you have a way of working with those, then it's hard to get outside of that box.
Right.
The only argument I would have to that is if we have our students thinking deeper and not thinking from a multiple choice standpoint, I think that they're going to learn, their learning is going to be richer, and I believe that we're going to see even better results on the standardized testing because we're taking our students to that next level. That's my thought.
But you guys, what's y'all's thoughts? Put you on the spot. No? All right.
Well, that was part of the grading scale that bothers me. I hate to think of moving backwards and make it less challenging to make an A. And that's the part of it that kind of bothers me, but
Well, I'll just, to counter that, I
Yeah.
went to school in 3 states, an international school, and in college, and never once in my life was I in anything but a 10-point grading scale. So when I came here, when it's like 7-point, I was like, well, what's that about? Because everywhere else I've been was always 10 points. So maybe it's too easy everywhere, but that was what I was
Yeah.
used to.
All right, good discussion. We'll continue that. Item 4, public comment. I don't have any cards. Does anyone wish to speak? All right. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Austin?
yes.
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 Yes. All right, item 6A, approval of VSBA policy updates.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Ritchie will come up and answer any questions. I know we pulled a couple of these off last month to get some questions answered. I think those questions have been answered. Didn't know if you wanted.
They were great
Yeah,
questions.
but I do think they've been answered. But if you guys want, Mr. Ritchie is prepared to answer those questions if you'd like. If not,
Questions?
Y'all have any questions on the updates?
I do not.
I'll make a motion to approve the VSBA policy updates.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Our discussor's not here. Ms. Austin?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right, item 6B, approval of contract purchase greater than $50,000, BVPS Milk and Dairy, Board and Dairy. Do we have any?
I'll move that we approve the contract purchase of greater than $50,000.
Okay.
Second.
Any questions that you might want to ask, but we can't answer?
Should we explain it just briefly?
yeah. So we had 2 bids. We are using the low bid. It was $134,315.90, which was just slightly less than the bid we had from Mayfield.
All right.
Any almond milk in that?
No almond milk.
All right.
No whole milk either, or buttermilk.
Yeah.
Ms. Austin?
Yes.
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 Yes. Item 6C, approval of renewal of school nutrition certificate of deposit. Do we have a motion?
I'll
Anybody
make
else
a
want?
motion to renew school nutrition certificate of deposit.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions on that? Ms. Austin?
Yes.
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 We could have bulked out the consent agenda. I
Do
tell
what?
you what, we could have bulked out the consent agenda here.
That's right, yeah. All right, item 6. Item 6D, discussion and approval of qualifications for superintendent. So, first of all, I would like to thank Ms. Hubbard and Mrs. Guffey for going by the high school and talking with our teachers and staff and getting input for that. You know, a lot of that information is going to be really good when we do interview questions, you know, to tie into some questions, you know, for our superintendent candidates. So, you know, some really good points have been made there. So what we want to do is set our qualifications for superintendent. That's going to be posted with the job posting. And we can put anything we want in there. My recommendation is just keep it short. And if there's anything that we had from the survey that is required or preferred, I think the question 2 kind of covered those qualifications as far as what was preferred, what is required, and then what wasn't important on those survey results. In looking down through those, really the only, from the surveys that came back, there were 256 surveys sent out, and 154 of those come back was requiring that they would have experience as a principal. You know, that was kind of required. 100 was preferred, and then 11 of that was not important. As far as any other any other qualifications that were, that are listed in that, and I'll just read those. It was experience as a superintendent, and earned doctorate, work experience in Virginia, experience as an associate or assistant superintendent, experience as a central office administrator, experience as a CEO other than school district, high school level teaching experience, residency in the school division, middle school level teaching experience, and elementary level teaching experience. So as far as required, what come back from the survey, 50% of those surveyed, wanted principal experience. The majority, so we had 55 for elementary teaching experience, 63% for middle school teaching experience, and 61% for high school teaching experience, and those were preferred qualities. And then we had 50% experience as a central office administrator, and 56% experience as an assistant or associate or assistant superintendent, and those were also preferred. So, and then 60% was preferred of experience as a superintendent. So, the really only thing through the survey, through the community that they recommended be required was experience as a principal. Now, residency didn't seem to matter. I will say, as far as residency, personal opinion, has changed some. in the last few days, but my opinion is that they need to live in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You know, if they're gonna come to Bristol to be a superintendent, they don't need to live in Bristol, Tennessee. You know, they need to, their taxes need to go to funding our students, not Tennessee students. So, thoughts, interject any other ideas that you might have? Do we want to do requireds on, you know,
Well-
on anything, or just preferred?
What I was going to say is, there are a lot of the preferred that are, I'm going to say, almost overwhelming. So I think we should consider some of those. We asked the community and, so,
Right.
And
required is, that's kind of a tough word. I mean, there's always that.
I mean, when you say required, if someone doesn't have that one particular
That's right.
thing, you know, they're out,
No matter what,
no matter what. Yeah.
no matter how great they are at 5 other qualifications.
Right.
what I like looking at some of the examples that we have is the ones that, like New Kent County's, for example, that has 3 qualifications that are more about like the experience, the doctorate, et cetera. But then they have, like 5 things that are some of these things that were from other questions as far as like, you know, your communication or your advocacy or whatever that they have there. And it's still only just a page. It's not, I don't think this one's overwhelming to look at. It's easy to, it's not, some of them are a full page of like multiple sentences, and I couldn't really focus on those to read them. But that might be something that we could take a couple of the question 2 qualifications, and then we could, you know, and they have the preferred required, and then they have shall demonstrate. And so we could put some things that are a little bit more, you know, less concrete in there.
Okay.
Which page are you looking at?
36.
So I did not bring my packet, but the qualifications required by the state or whoever, do we have a list of those that we can make visible? Or,
I think it's just that they have, it's like the qualifications of division superintendents per the code section, and then they have like, it's 3, 4 pages. of-
yeah, okay, that, right.
It's very codey.
It's Cody and also whoever,
Yeah.
they have to be on the approved superintendent's list, so they're gonna meet the qualifications of that
Right.
code before the
Yeah.
VDOE is gonna approve them
Okay.
anyway. You wanna interject something?
I was just gonna say, Dave McGee could be your next superintendent. I mean, he knows as much, I've told him that before. So even though he doesn't have a division superintendent's license, you could have him add it at the Department of Education.
That's qualification number 3.
That
That's
is a
op-
qualification. So you, you actually could do that. So you either get a division superintendent's license, or the board can, ask the Board of Education to approve somebody with expertise like Dave McGee, a CEO of another business or something like that. The other thing that I would say in looking at the survey is that there was no middle level, high school level, or elementary level experience required as far as teaching goes. Everybody highly preferred it. I would suggest, and it's none of my business, but if you are going to require anything, I would think teaching experience would be one of those things you would at least, if not highly recommend or prefer, that maybe even require teaching experience, especially if you're going to require principal experience. But
Right.
that's
And some
again,
of
I understand it's none of my business.
the feedback that we got from staff was that they wanted somebody that gets it. And I think that is nicely encompassed in either teaching and or administrative. What? Oh.
So let me ask you, is there anything that we want to put in our qualifications that are required?
Be a teacher. Just be a teacher. If you don't know what goes on in a classroom, you don't know how to how to talk to people who have to make things happen in the classroom.
Yeah, I would say teaching.
I'll agree with that.
The level doesn't really matter, but elementary school's a whole lot different than a high school in many ways. Sometimes it's the same, deal with the same attitudes.
I think the way I might word it would be that teaching experience is required, and then administrative experience as a principal, superintendent, other administrator is strongly preferred, or something like that. Or we could, I mean, we could do required as principal too, but if we're trying to avoid requires.
Well, I think that, yeah, the more I think about the required, I feel like that's more of our job as the interview criteria and what we value as important or not, depending on that individual.
I mean, Brienne has 3 pages of notes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Vanessa has some as well.
Sorry.
So we've got plenty of stuff
We had
for your
lots of
questions to
suggestions.
narrow it down,
Yeah.
you know. But, so the last time, you know, we preferred a doctorate or required a doctorate, we preferred it.
Yes.
I think almost everyone preferred or required, I mean, there's only 15% of people didn't think it was important, so I think we could prefer that.
And their spouse can cook.
And I kind of like what they did here was the qualification of
Yeah.
being on the eligible list of division superintendents, which is,
I'll help him with his spelling. I'll help you with your typos on the headlines.
I think one thing that, I don't know if we want to consider it on the qualifications or just more of an interview question, but, you know, expertise in curriculum and instruction, you know, with the discussions we're having about curriculum at the elementary school level, what we want that to look forward to, the Literacy Act, you know, that might be someone with demonstrated expertise might be helpful.
expertise in curriculum.
Curriculum and instruction was the wording on the survey question.
So I've got teaching experience required, doctorate preferred, qualifications include being listed on the eligible list of division superintendents. And then just to demonstrate expertise in curriculum and instruction.
I hate to just keep poaching from New Kent's here, but several of these things also showed up in the survey as important that they have, which is consistent presence in the schools, school activities in the community, advocates for schools and communicates effectively.
Well, I think that a school advocate, you know, advocates for our schools and communicates, but also communicates with our city council as well.
Yeah.
A relationship with funding body. Is there anything else that we'd want to?
Did we want to include the consistent presence, or did you write that down already, or do we not want to do that?
We could do that.
What's that?
Oh, sorry, you don't have the book. Consistent presence in the schools, school activities, and the community they have is required. Under the successful candidate shall demonstrate the following.
Is there anything else that,
Did you include residency, preferred residency in
Oh, that's
Virginia?
right, the
that's right,
residency.
required to
That
live
should
in
be
the Commonwealth?
And would we want to put residency in Bristol would be preferred by the ideal candidate or something like that, or do you just want to deal with it in the interviews?
Well, we can put required to live in the Commonwealth,
Yeah,
preferred to live in Bristol.
yeah.
In that way, it leaves it open.
And yeah, one of them said, the candidate selected for the position must agree to become a resident of Hampton City after accepting the position. I don't think we need to put that exactly,
Right,
but we
yeah.
could.
We don't want them to live next door up there in Washington County to you.
Okay, so what we have required is required to live in the Commonwealth, preferred to live in the city, teaching experience required, doctorate preferred, listed on the eligible list of superintendents, demonstrate an expertise in curriculum and instruction, demonstrate a relationship with our funding body, demonstrate consistent presence in the schools, school activities, and community is required. We're not gonna put is required up behind that.
Yeah.
Advocates for the schools and communicates effectively on behalf of the school division. Which I think that's probably the same thing as the relationship thing I put on there, so we'll scratch that. Anything else?
I would just say from hearing from your conversation, it sounded like you need to say something about building level administration experience, whether it's preferred or required. I know that was part of the discussion earlier, and it maybe got changed to teaching.
Yeah.
And then knowing what I've had to deal with for the last 6.5 years is, budget and finance is a really big part. I mean, obviously you have Tammy who keeps everything afloat, but still having some knowledge about budget and finance, I think certainly ought to be something that's discussed, if not part of the qualifications.
And while Randy's writing, I will just add to you all or the people out there watching online that we really appreciate all the feedback we got. We got a lot of feedback in person and via emails and via the survey. We really appreciate that. And we definitely had situations where one person said, this is incredibly important to me, and another person said, the opposite is incredibly important to me. So I don't want anyone to think that just because we haven't selected something that you said as a criteria, or it isn't, something that ends up being used, you think, in an interview question, that we really truly did read everything, we've digested everything, we've considered everything, and we've just tried to take all of that and, build a consensus of what the board thinks and what the community thinks. But we did have, varying opinions, but we really appreciate everybody's feedback.
You could see that it was evident they want all the students, all of our children represented throughout, that there was a real concern for the well-being of all the children.
Okay, so what I have required to live in the Commonwealth, but preferred to live in the city. Teaching experience required. A doctorate is preferred, listed on the eligible list for superintendents. Building level administration is preferred. Demonstrate expertise in curriculum and instruction. Demonstrate experience in budgeting and finance. A consistent presence in the schools, school activities in the community. Advocates for the schools and communicates effectively on behalf of the school division. We gonna go with that?
I was going to say, knowing our 6-hour drive to Richmond, I mean, I think should we mention anything about willing to travel to Richmond for appropriate collaboration with other,
I think that's something we can do in the interview deal,
Okay.
because that's kind of how we did it last time.
okay?
You know,
And I think you kind of cover that with advocacy, where you mentioned.
yeah, I have to see, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's probably,
All right.
you know, local community and Commonwealth as well. Okay. So do I have a motion to accept these qualifications?
I'll move we accept the qualifications.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Ms. Austin?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so the games begin tomorrow. Let's see, what does that take us to? Closed session?
No, we gotta approve.
Granting me the authority to hire between now and then.
All right, item 6E, approval of granting superintendent permission to hire new employees between May 2nd of 2023 and June 5th of 2023 in consultation with the school board. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve granting superintendent permission to hire between May 2nd and June 5th.
Second.
Ms. Austin?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, would you read us into closed session?
Pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following matters: discussion of certain personnel, recommendation for employment, and resignations.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Austin?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you all for coming out to our exciting meeting tonight. We're going to closed session. That's what I've always wanted to do. I'd like to sit there, get up there for a minute. It's hard. I got a guy leaves at noon, so. Yes, sir. So your name's in the hat, right?
I'm going to law school, so I can be city attorney. Not. Hey, I appreciate the vote of confidence. That's a running joke. Anyway, all right, so let's go down to Boston.
Yeah. We're not right.
fitness, thing in school, always second to do. All of it. Whole life. It is, it's incredibly hard for most people. What's it always do? 4 or 5 or 7 or whatever. Everybody's, well, it's different body builds. You guys come up, it's different. What is that job?
to read us back in?
The Bristol, Virginia School Board certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, and only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were considered.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Ms. Austin?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve attachment A?
To do what?
I'll make a motion to approve attachment A.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Austin?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any other old or new business?
I've got a huge new business. Let's talk about it 9 o'clock. No, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine if somebody did?
Well, meeting adjourned. And I'll